The Philippines is located in the Coral Triangle, the world center for marine biodiversity, and in that triangle, we are at the apex, which makes us the center of the world center for marine biodiversity. That is the ecological importance of our seas. Unfortunately, it does not make us immune to the threats that the corals are facing now. Here in Shangri-La Mactan, we would often have this challenge when guests accidentally step on the corals, especially during low tide. In order to save the corals, we started making W.A.V.E, which stands for Wonderful Acts of Valuing the Environment. W.A.V.E started as a colleague engagement program that made its way to our guests. The activity starts with the educational parts wherein guests get to know the general information about the corals. Most people think of corals as just plants or a rock that has no life. W.A.V.E illustrates that the coral is actually an animal. It has different types, habitats, and also feeds. More importantly, it discusses the value of corals and the threats they are facing nowadays. Then, we share tips on what we can do to help the corals. Next comes the materials needed for the coral planting. Broken fragments of corals were collected earlier. These are loose corals lying around the swimming area that will just die eventually, so we rescue these corals by attaching them to a hard substrate that a coral needs in order to live and thrive. We use limestone rocks for the substrate, which Mactan is very abundant of. For the actual planting, the coral is attached to the rock firmly with the use of a tie wire. At least 2 weeks after the planted coral is delivered to the coral garden, the coral will start growing and extends to the rock. That small coral will then start building a new colony slowly. With this small activity with the guests, we are trying to increase the coral cover of the marine sanctuary and, at the same time, sharing the responsibility of taking care of the reef with our guests. So let's do the act now and let's make more waves.